What does your family photo look like? Is everyone happy, alive, and does it look like a great family? The most severe forms of propaganda and terrorism happens in a family behind closed doors. Today, we'll talk about unhappy families and the stories that affect you and what to do about it. This is Jason and Patricia Rohn. I'll say our name correctly. And we are sitting in for Dr. Pat today. Thank you, Dr. Pat, for this opportunity. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the ecosystem approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, why are these invisible childhood stories so very important, meaning about our families?
Well, we've talked about the emotional story many, many times, and that's not what happened to you as a child, but how you felt about what happened to you as a child.
Okay.
And that distinction is really important. And as those feelings may fade, maybe you numb out from them, the energy of what happened to you and those feelings that you had don't go away.
Yeah.
And we see as intuitives that those energies are what's blocking you today. All the struggles you have, all the challenges you have, if the more you uncover that emotional story,
right,
the more you see that that's where it comes from. And what we see, and we've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, we have.
Over 20 years, that when people come to us with challenges and problems, it's always those energies that are old.
Yes.
Yes. And as you start to remove those, oh my gosh, transformation is amazing.
Well, and I'm going to jump in and say, and I know we're going to talk about it, not exactly right now, but we've been doing it, like he said, for over 20 years. And I just discovered something the other day that actually made my mouth go, whoa, okay. I just dropped
your
open
story.
About my story. And I had no idea all of this time because it had been covered up with my family saying, you're wrong, you're the crazy one, it doesn't matter.
That didn't happen, or
yes, that wasn't
and even
right.
if it's not said explicitly, there are these family photos, which is sort of a metaphor that says that couldn't happen here.
Exactly. So Jason, talk about cowboy up.
Oh, and we've heard this so many times.
Yes.
So the opposite of understanding your emotional story, in other words, how you felt about your childhood.
Right.
And frankly, it's not just your childhood. These energies that are attached to you that we talk about,
right?
They don't go away. They go from lifetime to lifetime. And again, as intuitives, we're able to see that. It's so clear.
Yes.
And I guess one of the biggest issues that we see is that no one in the world right now is dealing with the problems in terms of what they really are, which we see as negative energies.
Correct.
That's why for us, being an intuitive is so important. And we don't want to do it for you. We want to show you how you do it for yourself.
Exactly.
Have the refined intuition so you can be able to uncover your emotional story for yourself.
There's such a satisfaction in that.
Exactly.
When you figure it out for yourself and clear that negative energy, you find that there's space within you for new and really exciting things, a lot of positive energy.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
So we've heard this so many times about the cowboy approach. Everybody has struggles. Get over it.
Yeah.
Or quit your whining and move forward. When I was in the Army, I heard that a lot.
All that.
Just cowboy up, man up,
Right.
What was there was a lot of Army expressions that I can't even mention on the radio, but act like you have a pair, and it's not cards, and we're not talking about cards. So it's in response to people who actually whine, and whining is very offensive. But many people think the ecosystem approach is like that because we talk about going back to your emotional story, how you felt about your childhood and even beyond. But it's not about that. It's not about whining. It's about uncovering those feelings as energies and those emotions as energies.
Exactly. And having somebody acknowledge that whoever is talking about their story isn't crazy.
Isn't crazy. And then removing those energies,
Yes.
and which is
Successfully, by the way.
which is why we created the ecosystem approach.
Exactly.
So we know that forcing yourself to think a certain way, act a certain way, or even feel a certain way doesn't work, because it doesn't change the energies.
Correct.
Those energies that are underneath, that are the root cause, don't change.
Well, you know what? I have a story about that. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump in. Unfortunately, I happened to lose my best friend less than 6 months ago, my best childhood friend 6 months ago. And unfortunately, the main source of her death was that she, they think that she died from a heart attack or heart failure. And we had lost touch with each other. And then we came back together. And for 3 years, she and I got to talk about her story and my story. And she validated a lot of things in my story. But today I want to validate a lot of things in her story. And her story was that on the outside, her family looked like the great American family. Everybody was
and you thought it was a great
American family. I did. I mean, I thought that it was wonderful. But what I found out in the last 3 years is there was secrets, and there was propaganda and psychological I'm going to say operations and manipulations that were going on that I knew nothing about. So everything looked perfect on the outside. The problem was that when I came back after 30 years to spend time with my friend, so to speak, we started talking about health issues. And we know, Jason and I know, the ecosystem approach knows that health issues are always backed by negative energies that come from somewhere. And she had the root cause. Thank you very much. She had things like arthritis, vertigo.
Well, arthritis is anger. Vertigo is being knocked off your feet with her problems.
And her back problems.
She couldn't stand up for herself.
And she was severely overweight. And by the way, she had never been that way 30 years ago.
And so that's carrying anger in her fat cells.
Exactly. And then the heart problems, the broken heart. Well, that's the one I want to sort of focus on the most at the moment. But in her story, she confessed to me that she was not allowed, she didn't know that her real father, her birth father, had actually committed suicide in a mental institution. She and her brothers were told that he died from pneumonia. She was, and I believe this is semi-right, but until she was 18 years old, she never knew the truth. None of them, and she was the baby at the time, none of them knew that their real father had died from suicide.
But see, here's the problem.
Okay.
That when you're in a family like that, the energies of that death are acting upon you, but you don't know why.
Well, and you don't even know where they come from.
People aren't conversant in the idea of energies anyways.
Right.
But those are acting upon you. So when you hide stuff like this from children, the energies of it are still there, and affects them.
And I was going to say, and affects them. And oftentimes, like with my friend, they turn into disease. They turn into major health conditions and
broken heart,
and you don't know what to do with them. And by the way, I need to say, I miss my friend every single day still. She was amazing.
And I know you enjoyed the connection because you were able to validate each other's story.
We were.
She could see what was happening to you in your family, which none of your family members don't acknowledge.
Exactly. Even to this day, they're still not acknowledging those things. And the reason we're talking about this is that we want you as the audience to understand that the ecosystem approach can actually help you minimize the drama, trauma, and chaos that you're carrying around each and every day that's affecting you in every single moment of your life today.
It's not the fact that it needs to be acknowledged. That's important.
Yes.
But what's really important is there's an energy of it that's attached to you.
Yes.
And it comes out as health problems, money problems, relationship problems.
Yeah.
And just being satisfied with yourself, having well-being problems.
And it's really difficult, because none of us are trained that when you get rid of this energy, and by the way, the way to do it is through the ecosystem approach. None of us have been trained that it's actually possible. So we learn and we're taught to ignore it.
And here's the worst. Here's the very, very worst. And I know we're running out of time, but the when you're in a family that looks good on the outside,
Yeah.
and there's this propaganda
Yes.
within the family that says, we're great, we're a great family, you know, we're everything's as it should be, and you know that something's wrong, but you feel like a crazy person because
Yes.
no one else acknowledges it. That actually is some of the most difficult
Exactly.
to have.
So Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
Your family story is not irrelevant to your life now. It's an energy that stays with you.
But can be cleared.
Yes. Family secrets and propaganda become negative energies that act upon us invisibly for the rest of our life.
Yes.
The worst negative energies often look good from the outside, even inside a family. That's just propaganda, but it can be cleared.
Okay.
And the ecosystem approach teaches you how to clear the energies from your family stories so they don't hurt you.
In the next segment, we're going to talk about some types of family terrorism and propaganda, with examples, even more than what we just gave you. This may sound very familiar to you. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show, sitting in for Dr. Pat with Jason and Patricia. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia, sitting in for Dr. Pat. In this segment, we're going to talk about some types of family terrorism and propaganda with examples. This may sound very familiar to you. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, family terrorism and propaganda sounds very harsh. Is this really terrorism and propaganda?
In today's world, we see the awful effects of terrorism and propaganda in the global scale.
Yes, we do.
In with governments, with groups of people, people are being killed and being hurt in really awful, horrific ways. But we see the energy, the roots of that starts in the family, where many of us think it's normal.
Yeah, well,
these techniques of propaganda and terrorism start in the family. If you don't do this, if you better do this, otherwise this bad thing's going to happen to you.
Correct.
And or they tell you that yeah, it's okay for daddy to touch the little girl in this way, you know, incest. I can't tell you, we've had so many people that we've worked with sexual abuse. It's issues, it's really horrific. And what's happened is that the abuser normalizes the abuse. Well, it's just normal. That's love.
Yeah, oh, that's
the ultimate propaganda, you know, what love is and what love isn't.
Yes. And you know, it's all of us are trained that what goes on in our family is normal. But there's a part of us, and I admit I'm a perfect example of this. I knew something wasn't right, but in my family of origin, and I'm going to jump in. I had a mentally disabled sister. She's not been with us for a while. And she was very difficult.
She had the mental age of a 3-year-old
on a good day. And but there was all kinds of things that happened because of it. And after she had died, my older sister and I, we stood up and spoke at the funeral, and both of us told the truth about how difficult it was and how much it had affected us in a way, even to this day. And of course, we make jokes about it and all that sort of thing to ease the drama and trauma of it all. But there was a few family members at the funeral that got so mad at my sister and I for telling the truth,
exposing the propaganda.
It was, I mean, it was, it was not good. And the worst thing is that my sister might have been mentally disabled, and she truly was, but she manipulated her disability. She manipulated everyone in the family.
Well, and the main trauma was the fact that she would have seizures
all the time.
And whenever she had a seizure, they would call the fire department. The fire department would be in the house.
And along with the police department.
Oh, and it was chaos. Well, and in the middle of the night, during the day.
And one of my most embarrassing moments as a child outside of the house was, well, there was two of them, but outside of the house, I remember going with my classroom to visit the fire station in town. The town I lived in wasn't that big. And two of the firemen said, "Hi, Patty, how are you? How's everything at home?" And I have to tell you, I was so embarrassed that I knew the firemen. I mean, everybody wanted to know the firemen, but they knew me by name.
Well, it was embarrassing to you because there was this propaganda within your family, even if it wasn't spoken explicitly, that this was shameful, what was happening in your family, and that you shouldn't talk to anybody about it. And the fact that the firemen knew you,
everybody exposing, and everybody in my classroom wanted to know, how do you know that guy? How do you, and I go, oh, well, he knows my family, and I left it at that. But I was just so humiliated by it, because the reason I knew him was because of these seizures, and these seizures meant there was something majorly wrong. If you had to call the fire department or a police officer, that meant something was wrong.
And it was shameful.
And it was totally shameful.
And it needed to be covered up and acted like it wasn't there.
Exactly.
And your mother was the one that held the shame.
Oh, by all means. My mother died from not one kind of cancer. She died from 3 different kinds of cancer. And it was horrific.
It was a form of family terrorism.
Absolutely.
Because it was the seizures would come on, and it was like the whole family was attacked.
And we had to stop everything that we were doing. And each one of us had a job, and we had to do this. We had to run and call the fire department. We had to do all kinds of things. The point that I'm trying to get at, because I could go on and on and on, which I don't want to, was that we all knew something was wrong, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. That brings me to my next story about this whole thing. The neighbor that lived next door, we had moved from that house, and I hadn't seen this neighbor for, I'm going to say, a good 20 years. And I ran into him at the grocery store. And at the grocery store, we talked for, how's this, how's that kind of thing. And he said, I always felt so sorry for you and your sister and the rest of the family. And I said to him, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he said, the hell that you must have lived in for all of those years with your sister and the seizures and manipulating the family. The part he wasn't not telling, he was telling the truth, and, feeling sorry made me go, whoa, okay. But what bothered me was I didn't know that anyone outside the family, outside of our house, knew actually what was going on.
And it seems like a lot of people do.
Well, but the propaganda in the family was nobody knew, and we had to keep it a secret.
Yes.
But it affected me. And even to this day, there are still parts of this that affect me. And it's very, very, very difficult. In other words, it was, for lack of a better way to say it, it was beat into us. Not that they were beating us. That's not what I mean. But it was harped into us that we were not allowed to talk about it.
It was repeated over and over again.
And over and over again.
We see that today in politics. It's pretty clear that when someone stands up and tells the truth and says, no, they're lying.
Yes.
They're discredited. Everybody goes around them and tries to discredit the person telling the truth.
Yes.
It comes from our family. It's very natural to the family. So here's the main point. Okay. You have to have what we call evolved consciousness to truly understand family terrorism and how it's affected you,
Yes.
and how it could affect your family in the future. Now, what we've been doing with the ecosystem approach, we don't just teach it to other people. We're implementing it ourselves.
We are. Yes.
And after all this time, we're still getting little. We're still uncovering more and more snippets of what's happened to you, what's happened to me.
Correct.
And how it's affected us.
Yes.
And then we're clearing it away.
Yes.
Once you clear it away, it's amazing. But if you don't understand it right now, if you're saying, I'm thinking about my family, that wasn't that bad. It was,
And wait a minute, the key right there was, it wasn't that bad.
Yes. Or this was a problem, but I know a lot of people had a lot worse than I do.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You can't compare. You can't rate the family traumas.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter that someone else you perceive as having it worse.
Right.
It's how you felt about it and how those feelings are acting upon you right now.
Exactly. So Jason, talk about the other processes, the energy processes.
There's a lot of there's a lot of other energy processes out there: scream therapy, rebirthing, physical release, which is a form of myofascial release, REM therapy. The problem with those, they usually don't go far enough. There's no basis for seeing where you're at.
Well, they don't see the negative energy.
They don't see precisely the negative energy.
There you go.
So when we talk about your emotional story, it's not just about, for example, the trauma of having being woke up in the middle of the night and having the
firemen in your house.
Yes, exactly. It's the subtle things that you were trying to study for a test and you couldn't do it because you were taking care of your sister.
Well, and I'm sorry, I have to jump in and say, more than one of my teachers would say, oh, don't tell me that the dog ate your homework.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that when you have firemen and policemen in the middle of your house, how do you study? Yeah. You don't get your homework done.
Well, exactly. And so it was very hard. But what we do, what's really different about the ecosystem approach is that we use the Enneagram typing system to understand the negative energy in your essence. Yes. At any particular time. Now, it's not a precise thing. It's a very, very flexible way of seeing.
Yes.
But we've seen so many of these other techniques. They say, okay, do this and then you're done. But we see the energy still there. You're not done.
And it's going to come up in some other way. That's how it happens.
The ecosystem approach has so much validity and is so effective.
Yes.
Because we see energy and we see what works and we see what doesn't.
Right.
And it's a big deal.
So Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
The emotions of the past stick to you and can be removed with clearing, but they just don't go away. Our family stories will act upon us until we clear them using an energy approach. And most energy processes don't go far enough and are not specific enough.
Okay.
Evolved consciousness is needed to truly understand the terrorism and propaganda in a family, which is often invisible. And that comes from using energy techniques and clearing away the negative energy attached to you. It's not a cognitive process. You can't figure out family terrorism. The ecosystem approach shows you how to clear the feelings to get to the root of those feelings over time.
Okay. In the next segment, we're going to talk about how to start to clear the family terrorism and propaganda, even if your memory is a little light or spotty, or you don't really think it affects you. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. We're sitting in for Dr. Pat today. Thank you for that opportunity. We're going to talk about, in this segment, how to start to clear the family terrorism and propaganda, even if your memory is a little light or spotty, or you really don't think you're being or seeing any effects of it. We're married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Okay, Jason, what happens if you can't remember or you don't know about family terrorism or any family propaganda? And by the way, we actually know people that can claim that.
Or people that have started with us and said that.
Yes.
And, when they start to see it more clearly, the people around them say, oh, we're programming them,
Yes. Well,
and that's the difference, because we don't program people. We uncover the negative energies,
right.
and then all of a sudden they can see things that they haven't been able to.
And by the way, oftentimes they don't like it. But the bottom line is, and I need to ask them one more question. If they can't see it, they don't know it's there, or if they don't think it's that bad, does that mean it really exists?
Well, and that's the biggest $64 question. And I would say yes.
Okay.
When you uncover it energetically, the process that we use is not putting
something in place of something else.
Exactly. We're not programming people. Now the truth is, the most mind control that we use is what's normally accepted today, which is think this way, feel this way.
Oh yeah.
Do it this way,
and everything will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's programming. That
Yes.
takes away your free will.
Mm-hmm.
When you start, we say it every single time that we see human beings as ecosystems,
right.
that when you take away the negative energy, who you are authentically, your ability to perceive,
it starts to flow. It starts to be, you start to be who you really are.
And your ability to perceive the world objectively is increased tenfold. It's huge.
And I just want to say, I have never worked with anyone that after we start removing the negative energies, that because people say, well, I'm not going to like myself, so I'm just going to stay the way I am. I like the way I am now. And the bottom line is that I've never heard anyone say, oh, I don't like who I've uncovered. And the bottom line is that everyone says, oh, I always knew this part of me was there, but I really like this part.
It's like a really, really happy homecoming.
It is.
You've been away from home for such a long time.
Yes.
Because that part that's home is the authentic part of you.
Yes.
And, it's a lot of times when you have a lot of pain, you numb out from it as a defense mechanism.
Well, and as safety,
yes,
for yourself. I mean,
and as you clear that away, it's not going to hurt you on the way up as you start to uncover it, but you can maybe feel it the way it was.
Yes.
But it doesn't, no one's ever died from what we do, and no one's ever been hurt from what we do.
No.
But they struggle with the emotions of it. And frankly, it's a good struggle. It's a positive one.
And that's the part I was going to say.
As you clear those emotions, you're say, okay,
mm-hmm.
I can see the world a different way, and
mm-hmm.
I got this.
Yes.
I've got the confidence about me because it's authentic to me. It's not some sort of phony confidence that
Correct.
You say, oh, you say in the mirror 10 times, I'm great, I can do this, I can,
Yes, I've done all that.
Yes.
And
we know that doesn't work. It doesn't change the energy.
Well, and I usually end up when I was doing that, I would stick my tongue out at myself.
So if you want to change the world for a better, you always have to start with yourself,
right?
And start clearing that hurt and pain. If you don't know what it is, clear numbness.
Mm-hmm.
Numbness always
mm-hmm.
works.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the most important part that people don't understand.
Okay.
That negative energy has a consciousness. Now, we did a show 2 shows ago about the consciousness of negative energy.
Correct.
That, and it's an amazing show. Go back and listen to that. But what we said in that show is that negative energy wants to exist.
Yes.
So if you try and remove it, it doesn't want to go. It wants to stay put.
Yes.
And if you start to remove it, there's a little bit of pushback. And the more you remove, the more pushback there is. You don't have to be afraid of that, but it happens.
Well, and one of the things that I found, this is my own experience, that when that pushback starts happening, if I realize that it's happening consciously, I clear the blocks that are keeping me from the courage to keep going.
Yeah.
Because once that negative energy is removed, there's a whole world out there that we don't even know exists.
It's amazing. And we see it so clearly. The way we see ourselves in our life today
compared
to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago,
exactly,
is so different.
It's
amazing.
Gosh. Yes.
So
go ahead.
So the other way you can start, let's say you don't have any memories, or you're numb.
Sure.
Is start with an accurate enneagram type. And the basics for each type is what you need to clear.
Mm-hmm.
For example, fears, sixes have fears and need for security.
Mm-hmm.
Fours need for drama and emotional expression.
Right.
Sevens need for activity and keeping busy.
Mm-hmm.
Eights need to dominate.
Mm.
Nines needs to have peace.
Yes.
Ones need perfection. Twos need love and attention. And threes
There you go.
need to make everybody around them love them, but it doesn't help.
And that's for a form of validation.
Yes.
Yes.
So the Enneagram type can be really helpful.
Yes.
We're not talking about the Enneagram type today. We've done shows about that.
Yes, we have.
But we use that as a tool
Mm-hmm.
to understand the negative energy that's attached to our essence.
Right.
So, this idea that negative energies want to exist,
yes,
is the hardest thing for people to understand.
Well, because we have been so programmed to believe that there is no negative energy, that everything that happens is because we've made an objective choice about it. When I'm here to tell you personally, that is not the truth at all.
We're also taught to think that if we just have confidence, we just act with confidence, then everything's going to be okay. And that's not true.
Well, and that act as if,
yes.
I have to tell you, act as if has gotten me in more trouble in my lifetime than I even care to share. We'll
because
say
the negative energy squirts in there sideways and
yeah.
sabotages you.
Yes.
And if this is making sense to you right now,
yes.
it's like, oh my gosh, that's the reason why all these self-help things haven't worked for me.
Right.
Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org, sign up for our free section. We'll send you weekly clearings. We'll send you a little bit about the show every week. And there's a whole bunch of content that you have access to when you sign up for the free section.
Yeah, which is really cool because it's really good information.
Really important information.
Yes.
So let's tell people how to clear, but let's go through the key points.
Well, let's do the key points first. Jason, what are the key points?
We become numb to pain, propaganda, and terrorism of our family and our past, but it's all energy and it can be cleared.
Correct.
An accurate Enneagram type is very helpful starting point to clear the feelings around invisible family stories. For example, if you're a 6 that needs fear, that has fear and needs security, I guarantee you some about your family story has to do with the fact that you were afraid and didn't have security in some form or another.
Correct.
Negative energy always wants to exist, so it resists clearing. Identifying it and keep clearing, the fears will be removed.
Yes.
The ecosystem approach is a way to heal the family terrorism that has affected you and keep you from repeating it in your own family.
Yes. And by the way, that's one of the hard parts because as you grow older, you see that you did the same thing that your parents did.
Yeah, we're going to do a show about that,
okay.
Turning into your parents. But yeah, so
wait, no, don't make me. Okay, so we're going to, in the ecosystem approach, we have a process,
an energetic process,
energetic process of how to remove the negative energy. Jason's going to talk about it, and then I'm going to talk about life force energy after that, and then we'll go to a break. So
it's very easy. You can stand, sit, lay down. You can be walking. You can be moving. You can be standing on your head. The posture is not important. You don't have to be reverent when you're in that posture.
Right.
People think of it like going to church. It's not that way. You're just doing a process.
Right.
So when we say and to eliminate, we usually say to eliminate specific emotions. Something that's more complex than that. Barriers, veils, and illusions. Just in your mind's eye and in your imagination, gather up those things in your body and blow them into the processor. If you want to see a picture of the processor.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yep.
Wait, let's see.
And Jacob may be putting that up on the
He might
screen.
be, but we're going to go with this one for the moment.
And
you're going to put it in the top here.
Yes.
You're going to, and by the way, whatever negative energy is put in there,
it's processed.
It's processed, and it comes out neutral. in the front. It comes out neutral, and you can find the picture of this where, Jason?
On our website, if you sign up for the free section,
exactly.
theecosystemapproach.org.
Exactly. Then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to activate life force energy. Life force energy is the most powerful energy that any of us has access to, and it is pure and clean, and it works for us in our best interest. And what we're going to do is we're going to call upon it. We're going to ask it to come in through the top of our head and go all the way to the tips of our toes. we're going to stop it right there. We're going to ask it to turn around, and then as it comes back up our body, we're going to ask it to remove any negative energy that's left behind. And by the way, there is so much negative energy in the world. One of the best things you can do every single day is to do clearing for yourself, meaning the ecosystem approach, because you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping the guy next to you and all of the other ecosystems, be it
around
human,
you.
yes, or any other way
And
around you.
Clearing is cumulative. So
Yes,
the more you
love
do,
it.
the better results you get.
Okay, so please stay with us. Stay tuned when we come back. We're going to do clearings to help you start to uncover your family terrorism and propaganda in your family story and for you personally. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, sitting in for Dr. Pat. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. We're sitting in for Dr. Pat today. In this segment, we're going to do some clearings to help you start to uncover family terrorism and propaganda in your family story and for you personally. You ready to get started, Jason?
Here we go.
All right.
I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the barriers so I can begin to see the family terrorism that has affected me all my life. Take a breath. Gather up those barriers, blow them into the processor.
Blow them into the processor right here. And now I'm going to shorten it a little bit, just because. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that my upbringing, more objectively without blame, that I turn on myself. That one's huge. Pick it up and put it in that processor, the top of the processor. Jason?
And to eliminate the intense feelings of worry, anxiety, and hate I have about the way I was treated as a child, whether I can remember it or not.
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
And blow it out. And to eliminate the feelings of fear and hurt and shame that I've been carrying about my family and about me for way too long. This one is huge, everyone. Take a nice breath. Just start to make yourself better.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see the motives for all those who participated in the family terrorism in my life.
Take a breath.
Take a breath, and you can put that down.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that I can clear the hurt and pain I've been carrying from my upbringing. I don't need it anymore, but it needs to go somewhere. Put it in that processor.
We need to clear it, yes.
Put it in that processor.
And to eliminate any feelings of fear and terror that still haunt me and keep me from my confidence.
Good one. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that similar traumas can affect everyone differently, especially in my family. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any intense anger or resentment that I have because of the way I was treated. I can keep clearing that. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any resistance I have to uncovering my emotional story first, and then clearing the pain and the hurt and the overwhelm of it. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that evil is never absolute. It's always layered, and it's up to me to reconcile it.
Yes.
Based on seeing other people's motives.
Take a breath. And to eliminate the hate and anger I have about family members who have hurt me, and the hate about that hurts me. It doesn't serve me. Take a breath.
People hold on to the hate because they think it's hurting the other person, but it's only hurting yourself.
Exactly.
And it's an energy. Get rid of the energy so you can take action.
Do other things. Yes.
Any numbness or blocks I have to anger, hurt, and pain that I have from my childhood.
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see the evil that has affected those in my family and me as well. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that that family terrorism is way too common, and the healing starts with me.
Take a breath. Now we're going to change it up just a little bit. Now we're going to activate life force. Remember, I said life force is the most powerful energy that any of us has access to. And that life force energy gives us the ability to have the clarity and the objectivity and the creativity that we all need and want, not only to heal ourselves, but to heal everything around us. And it goes like this: follow me. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to activate life force energy so I can use life force energy for happiness and hope and clarity, awareness and objectivity that I need and want, so I can start to heal me with the ecosystem approach today. Take a breath. Let it come in, go all the way through you. Let it stop at the tips of your toes, and now blow out any negative energy left over.
And to activate life force so I can have hope to heal the family terrorism and propaganda that has affected me in my life.
Yes, take a breath. And now blow it out. Remember that life force energy goes in and replaces where the negative energies that we were just clearing has been. So with that said, and to activate life force so I can trust and understand that healing takes time, but the benefits are truly worth it. Take a breath. Let it go in. Let it settle in the places where you need that healing done, and blow out any negative energy left over. Throw it in that processor.
And to activate life force so I can decide to see the propaganda I grew up with and heal and clear it, starting with myself.
Take a breath. And the last one, and activate life force so I can be happy and healthy, love myself and love others, and be creative and use objectivity, and know that by using the ecosystem approach, I can do and take care of anything. Take a breath. Let that heal you all the way to the tips of your toes, and blow out any negative energy left over. Jason, what are we going to talk about on Monday, which, by the way, is our normal show day and time?
Better sleep. And we're going to look at, from an intuitive perspective, what happens to you when you sleep.
Okay.
What are you doing when you're dreaming? And how does that help you? How does that affect your sleep? What about night terrors? What are they? How do you sleep to solve problems and for your own evolution?
Oh, wow.
Science doesn't have these answers. You're not going to get this from science. So this is an intuitive approach that is really, really effective.
Okay. And by the way, did today's show touch you, touch your heart in any way? Has it made you think in a way you've never considered before?
So how do you make the ecosystem approach a bigger part of your life? How do you take the next steps?
Yes.
It's very simple. Listen to our show every week. And we'll talk about, we have our normal show time is on Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern time. So listen to our show every week. Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org, sign up for our free section, and you get clearings. The clearings are all written out for you, and it shows you how to do it. A picture of the processor is there. And the more you clear, the better off you are. And each week we take a show topic about how to apply this in your life in different ways. It's very, very interesting.
Well, and especially for daily living.
Yes.
Yes. Jason, what about Facebook?
Go to our Facebook page, theecosystemapproach.org. All of our videos are there. Please like us while you're there, and take a look.
Okay. And listen to our show regularly. Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern time. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and you're listening to the Ecosystem Approach with Jason and Patricia. And thank you, Dr. Pat, for the opportunity today.
Remember, your ecosystem is the most important one in the world.